One of the cardinal rules of writing is show, don't tell. I've read it so many different times. I've heard it said to me, show, don't tell. But I've also received a lot of email from people who have been trying to figure out what I mean by that, or those who aren't, hey, you can write folks who will email and say, hey, would you take a look at this? And I'll write them back and I'll say, show, don't tell. And they'll say, huh? So I want to tell you about showing emotion. And I've got an example of that with something that I just finished that I will read to you. But think about the times, the books that you've read that have, or articles that you've read that have given you the most emotional response. My guess is that those books or those articles that were written were not done so with a lot of emotion on the page, that everybody's not crying. And that's one of the real tricks of this whole thing is you want your reader to cry. You want your reader to feel the emotion. You don't want to show that, put that out there all in front of them, because then they don't have anything to do. Because writing is participation. We've talked about that. Writing is drawing the reader in so that they are part of the story. When I read To Kill a Mockingbird, I can't read a page or two without choking up, because it's so real, first of all, and it's so weighty and heavy and important, the conversations that Scout's having with Atticus, and you read so much into their conversations. But they're not crying all the time at all. You're the one with the emotions. So you need, as you write, show the emotion, allow the reader to have the emotional response. Let me give you an example. This is a story. I don't know how much to tell you about this because I don't want to give it away, but the boy in the novel has a stutter, and he gets progressively better as the novel goes along, and he goes to live with his aunt, and he discovers that his aunt is his real mother. And if you read any of my books, always go into the books thinking everybody's related in some way. You come out at the end and everybody's related to each other. I don't know why, it just kind of bubbles up that way. So the aunt's name is Pidge, and he has just learned, Delbert has just learned that Pidge is his mother. And so he sits down, and the reason they call her Pidge is because she has a pigeon in the office where she is. He likes you, Pidge said, smiling. He won't do that for very many people. I got a couple of questions. All right, shoot. What do I call you? She sat back and crossed her arms. What do you want to call me? Well, everybody else calls you Pidge. I've kind of gotten used to it. Then why don't you call me that? I don't know anybody who calls their mother Pidge. I stopped caring about what other people do a long time ago. If you want to call me Mom or Mama or Aunt Pam or Sliced Spam, I don't care. The kid chuckled. His mother seemed serious, but underneath she was the funniest person he'd ever met. He felt like he'd hit the jackpot on funny with her. So is that settled? You want to call me Pidge? The kid nodded. But I'd reserve the right to change my mind. She smiled at him and then turned away and looked at something on the wall. What's the next question? Now, here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that as you read that, or as anybody reads that, they'll do the same thing that I did, and that's not fair. I've already read it before, and I'm having emotion because you sense this thing going on between them. He's learned who she really is, and he wants to know what to call. What does she want? And she says, what do you want? And they're both moving toward each other in this real weird dance that they're doing that they didn't expect. And there's humor in there, and it catches her off guard. You'll see this happen with a puckered chin. Somebody has a puckered chin. Here's what I experience. Most people don't like emotion. Most people don't want to show emotion. Most people reserve it when they're in a group or even in a theater. They wipe their face real quick. They don't want people to see them cry. It's the same way with your characters. They don't want to weep. So don't have them weeping and gnashing their teeth. Have them be reserved. Show them trying to hold it in, and you will touch that nerve in your reader.